Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
Our next guest is based in Nashville. He's covered the Tennessee Titans for a long time. He's now the host of OutKick 360. His name is Jonathan Hutton, and he joins us right now here in our progressive guest line on the Jake Asman Show. Jonathan, appreciate the time, man. Big fan of your work, and congrats to you on all the success with OutKick 360 so far.
Jake, appreciate it, man. Good morning to you. And this is the biggest trade since Kevin Carter joined the Titans from the Rams back in the day, like year 2000.
Wow!
So it was kind of a crazy turn of events here in Nashville.
Is the reaction overwhelmingly positive to the deal there?
Yeah, it's been crazy. And look, a part of it is what the Titans lost versus what they're receiving. They did not have to give up a first round pick, which was reported a couple of weeks ago nationally. That's what the Falcons were wanting. In fact, one outlet I think had it where the Falcons had a first round pick in hand for Julio Jones as part of an offer. That clearly was not the case. And John Robinson, who is known for being very hard-nosed when it comes to some of these negotiations, gets Julio Jones for what is essentially a second-round pick. He gives up a fourth-round pick in 2023. But the key with that pick is they're likely going to have a compensatory that's given back to them that year anyway, which should amount to about a fourth round. So that should cancel itself out. For a second-round pick, this is a go-for-it move. To me, it's not as much about what the Titans did. I'm shocked that another team did not get involved. I think a lot of general managers right now look stupid, quite frankly, for not trading a second-round pick for Julio Jones for what he could mean for your franchise immediately.
Jonathan Hutton with this here. So does Julio Jones make Tennessee now a legit Super Bowl contender?
Well, they're in the elite status. They're right up there now because this is a momentum shift for the division where you could have argued prior to this move that the Colts were better than the Titans on paper from this offseason. And I don't think you can argue that now based on the fact that now the third corner for any team that the Titans match up against will be on Josh Reynolds. And then you have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, two legit number one on the outside with Derrick Henry, who the offense still goes through. So, and they've overhauled their defense. They'll have six new starters from what was a terrible defense last year. They've improved on that area alone just by addition by subtraction. Then they add in a future Pro Football Hall of Famer with Julio Jones. They don't have Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith. And that's why I was saying the Colts had taken a step forward above them. That's not the case now. And they were already coming off of 2019's AFC Championship run. Last year, they went 11 games. They lose to Baltimore. They've been very consistent. They've had 5 straight winning seasons. And one of the toughest things to do in the league, as you all know, Jake, is just to maintain your status. And the Titans were able to do that by making a move like this.
Jonathan, what I love about the move is that, the other team that was maybe rumored to be in on Julio is the Indianapolis Colts, and they're right there in the division. How big of a deal is it that not only the Titans make this deal and get a big player like Julio Jones, but you might have prevented him from staying in your own division and going to a team that's directly competing with you for the crown of the AFC South?
It's a great point. And when you consider what the Colts' needs are and what he would have brought to that group, I think it's another key point to make for the Titans off season where they can stay in stride with Indy, if not above them. And look, the Colts were in need. I go back to my original point. I don't know why more general managers did not get involved for a second and a fourth. And I'm sure some of these teams wanted Atlanta to pay some of the money due to Julio Jones this year. That's what the Titans did when they traded for Ryan Tannehill. But the biggest difference is the Titans were able to restructure some deals here with their quarterback, or they will. They'll restructure their quarterback. Derrick Henry has come forward and said that he would restructure. He's alluded to that. Other teams may have not been in the same position where they have some of their star players locked up long term and can't restructure the way the Titans have some maneuverability with at quarterback and running back. Nonetheless, it's a move that definitely puts the Titans in the thick of things.
How do you expect them to use Julio in the offense? Like, I look at Tennessee, and obviously it all starts with Derrick Henry. If you try and stack the box now, you can't double Julio, you can't double A.J. Brown. Like, do you see them being more of a throwing team this year, or is the offense going to ultimately still go through Derrick Henry game in, game out?
I still think they are a run-based offense. that will play behind their offensive line, and this should help out that line of thinking, right? Because you're right. I don't think you can stack the box nearly as much, and if you do, you're giving up help on the outside with Julio Jones, who is very nuanced as a route runner now, and he always has been, but I think he relies more of his route running than his just linear speed. But he can still get over the top of a corner. He requires help over the top at times. So does A.J. Brown. And that's something the Titans have a true number one wideout prior to them drafting A.J. Brown. They've done that. Now they've traded for another. It opens up things. I think we see less two tight end sets than what we're used to seeing here in Tennessee with the Titans. More three wide receiver sets with Josh Reynolds. But they have their top three wideouts, Jake, can play all three positions required within the lineup of their offense. And again, that's unusual to say about a Titan offensive threat. So all in all, they can be very multiple. And that's kind of a cliche answer to what their offense has been in years past. They throw that word out there a lot. But for the first time, I think they're actually living up to the expectation. And again, they have the baddest man in the league with Derrick Henry in the backfield. So I'm really intrigued to see how they deploy all this.
Jonathan Hutton with us here is the host of OutKick 360. You can follow him on Twitter at Hutton OutKick. Jonathan, are people there sold on Ryan Tannehill? Is there any concern about what he might look like now with Arthur Smith, his OC, of course, leaving to be the Falcons head coach?
No, not really. I mean, the consistency is what everyone hangs their hat on with Tannehill since he's been here. And look, he's won games since he entered the league. Entered with the NFL season in 2019 as the Titan starter, which was Week 7. He's won 18 games for this franchise since he started, and that's consistency that the Titans have not seen from the position. There is an expectation that he's going to show up week in and week out. Which for the most part he has done. And I think as much as Arthur Smith meant to the offense, he was an excellent play caller. The thing that helps out Tannehill the most is they can run the football, and he's had some players step up around him that have really been reliable, that have been catching passes in traffic, albeit very accurate throws from Tannehill. A.J. Brown gets yards after the catch. And then Corey Davis stepped up last year prior to an injury that hobbled him down the backstretch of the season. Jonnu Smith was also very good for this offense. I think it's more about replacing those two players than it was just the play caller. Arthur's going to be missed. He was excellent and got a head coaching job for it. Todd Downing steps in, and Downing has been with the offense with Smith as the play caller. So I think it'll be a very similar structure and offensive play set for what Tannehill will be working with.
Jonathan, I'm based here in Houston, so I'm just curious. What is the perception of the Texans to the Titan fan right now with all the mess that the Texans have overgone really the last year and a half?
I think it's surprising enough, a lot of people feel terrible for Culley, which is hard in a very competitive league that even fan bases feel bad for a head coach. So that's the first note. Second is, I think we all see with all the 1-year deals that have been going on, that it really is kind of a mix and match mindset there until they can find some structure at quarterback. And it's just unfortunate because Watson is one of the best in the league. You know, you mentioned the elite status. You would start rattling off quarterbacks and he's right there, as you well know. And without him, they're not much. They're battling Jacksonville for the worst in the division, and I think most people would take the Jags right now. It's unfortunate the way things have unraveled, because I for one am all for the Houston-Tennessee rivalry. Love it, and I'm hoping that it gets back to that where even last year we went to overtime in week 6 of the season, and what was the more memorable games of the regular season. So. Week in, week out, it's an okay division, but it's nowhere close to what it used to be.
No doubt. He's Jonathan Hutton. Once again, follow him on Twitter at Hutton OutKick. He's based in Nashville. He's covered the Titans for a long time. Now is the host of OutKick 360. Jonathan, appreciate you getting up early and spending some time with us here on the show. Thanks again, and continued success, man. Big fan of what you guys do on OutKick.
Hey, thanks for having me anytime. I'll be glad to join you guys, and have a good show. I appreciate it.
Thank you to Jonathan Hutton there for checking in on the progressive guest line. Makes a good point, man. Julio Jones, the biggest trade the Titans have had in years, and probably a lot of GMs wondering, that's it. That's all it took, a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick next year to get it done. I felt there should have been more teams in on Julio. I agree with Jonathan there. We'll take a quick break and continue. Wrap up first hour of 2 today here on a Monday. This is the Jake Asman Show. You're listening to us here on Sports Map Radio.
Wake up call.